Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar today. I'm Francis Seeley from GlobalNet 21 and Enfield Climate Action Forum. And today we're going to look at activism. Strange thing to say activism, but being active today when we're faced with problems like sustainability and climate change is really, really important. And activism can help make the changes that we want to happen. And we're going to talk to Keith Hunt today, who's been active in many ways throughout his life. The way he's been active is really interesting, and how he's involved other people and how he's developed particular projects or been involved in them is interesting. And hearing his story can help us learn how we might be active as well. So Keith, thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to ask you a very simple question to begin with, but you could probably take the whole webinar doing it. But if you can do it very briefly, tell us a bit about, your background and what brought you to West Somerset, where you are now.
Hello, Francis, and hello, everyone. Well, I was born and grew up in West Somerset. That was in 1959 I was born. And as a child, I spent a lot of my childhood playing on the beach, the local beach where I lived by at Dunster, and often finding things around a beach combing and wondering where in the world those things might have come from. And then when I was about 12 years old, I saw an article in a magazine by Keep Britain Tidy, and they said, if you live by the sea, do a beach survey. Could you do a beach survey and record your findings? Which I did, and it was quite interesting that then there wasn't very much plastic as such. You find the odd beach ball, which they used to give away with 4 gallons of petrol in those days. What else? The odd sandal washed up on the beach, which someone might have lost while they were paddling in the sea. And the people who owned the beach, they saw me doing this, and I chatted with them. They said, "Oh, do you want to earn some pocket money and do a regular beach clean for us?" So that's what sort of initially got me into my beach cleaning days. And as time went on, I did this more, I continued this work. And I just saw the increase in household waste ending up on the beach, like people taking stuff, and the introduction of plastic bottles. And I remember seeing the first plastic bottle of water in a shop in 1975, and I just couldn't believe they were selling water in a bottle. Yeah. I mean, of course, you had the deposit return scheme in those days. That was coming to an end in the late 80s, but if we found a glass bottle, you could often take it back to the shop and get some pocket money with it.
Well, let's go through all of that point by point, because what you've been doing is interesting. But you actually moved to London, didn't you? I think in 1983, but you were longing to get back to your home county again. What was that longing?
I think because I spent all my childhood on the beach, and my sister worked in London. I went up to visit her, and I thought I just fancied a change. So I went to work up there in Oxford Street. I lived in North London, in Highgate, actually. And although it's quite a nice area I was in, I just realised when I got there, I thought, I can't go down to the beach when I want to. Yeah, that's been such a big part of my life. So I was coming home whenever I could, and I'd just be down on the beach, right out in the countryside and that, and you can see, where I live. It's such a wonderful area. But I still enjoy going back to London now for a visit, and I do litter picks up there as well occasionally. And so I was involved in London Marathon last year in October and organising litter picking there. So well, yes, I continue my beach cleans all the time. We're in the countryside as well, in towns and cities.
Well, I can see from the background behind you that it's a lovely place to be. So when you went back there, you became a caretaker, did you, for a local school, but you also became what's called a caretaker for the environment. What does that mean?
Well, caretaking at school, I used to volunteer my time and doing out of my caretaking hours, I volunteer time doing eco stools with the children and teaching them about the environment and how we can make a difference doing litter picking and watching how much energy we use. So I used to have some monitors. The children would go and they'd have access to the electric meter and they'd take a reading once a week, and we'd be seeing if we could get that down and things like that, water use and so on. But and I had one parent that, we used to do beach cleans and that occasionally. And one parent did say to me, oh, so-and-so, every time we go to the beach now, he always insists on making sure he's got a bag because he wants to do the beach clean when he's there. So that all those sort of things help make a difference. But as I say, I'm caretaker of the environment as well, because I can't go anywhere. And if I see any litter, I can't leave it there, because that's, sometimes I find myself almost walking along and looking to see if there's any litter rather than looking at the view around, because I want everyone else to enjoy the surroundings as well.
I see from what you're wearing that you're a litter hero ambassador as well. What does that entail?
In 2017, Keep Britain Tidy contacted some people who've supported them over the years, and you wrote a piece about yourself, what you've done, for Keep Britain Tidy, making a difference. So I was chosen as one of 100 people across the country to become a Litter Heroes ambassador for Keep Britain Tidy, and we promote the work they do and organising litter picks and making more awareness of our surroundings and what a difference, for instance, like cigarette butts and that, when we did our litter picks, saying to people, there's a lot of people think dropping a cigarette and it'll just break down, which is just a myth really, because that filter in the cigarette has plastic in that, and there's all the toxins that get released as well. So that cigarette butt could just wash down the drain, and drains, as we know, all lead to rivers and eventually to the sea. So it's out of sight, but it's still doing that damage. Fish don't come along and think it's food. So
you're an ambassador, and that involves you in the litter picking. But you mentioned this earlier too, but I think it's quite interesting. What's very interesting, you don't just pick up litter, you create data about it, don't you? So you have a database that goes nationally, so we know the scale of the problem. That's really quite important, isn't it? So we know exactly what is happening.
Yes. I did a litter pick. I helped organise one 2 weeks ago on the local beach. It was a beach clean and winter walk, and we had 93 people turn up to take part in that. So they all had bags and the litter pickers, gloves and that. So we had a 2-mile section to walk along, and then when everything was collected, it's all sorted at the end. We've got big trucks and that, and it all gets sorted into different, whether it's metal or plastic or things that can be recycled, and then your general waste. And then there's vintage litter as well, I call it, because it's amazing what you do find washed up on the beach.
Tell us about that, because you actually found something, didn't you, that went on the BBC website that was quite vintage. So, tell us about that, because that will explain what you mean by vintage litter.
Well, the BBC thing was slightly different, but I'll come to that in a moment. The vintage litter is pieces of, articles that wash up, and they identify as being, very old pieces, like say a washing up liquid bottle that has 2 and 6 written on it with the decimal. So and crisp wrappers and things like that. That it just shows they've been washed up on the beach, and they've just been floating around in the ocean for 50, 60 years.
Oh, I see what you mean by vintage litter now. It's different, isn't it? But the BBC one thing was something else, wasn't it?
It was, yes. That was on the coast that you can see behind me there, down at Porlock Weir. I was walking along, doing a beach clean, and get a lot of wood washed up on the beach. And this piece of wood I came across just looked like a plank of wood. and it had a brass plaque on it. And I had a look, and it said, in memory of John Bannister, who lived and worked on the Arley estate. I can't remember the exact words on it. You could, but if anyone wants to go and search on the Google that, you'll see the story about it. But anyway, I went home and looked up on the internet to find out where Arley was, and it turned out it was 140 miles up the channel in Worcestershire. So I contacted them and said I'd found this, and they said that was a bench that washed away 18 months ago, and they didn't know what happened to it. So it obviously broken up on its way down the channel, and I found this one piece of wood washed up on the beach with a plaque on it. And I think if that had been the other way up, I wouldn't have seen it. I'd have walked past, but I got the plaque off of it, and I returned that. I went up in person. There's his widow still lives on the estate, which was lovely. So
that's really,
that's really that back, and they've gave it to them. They cleaned it up, and they've made a new bench with that and put it back for everyone to enjoy. So
well, that's really interesting. I mean, so you find things of historical interest, and that was a very special thing. Talk about vintage litter, which is litter that may have been 50 years old or something. Does it surprise you when you find the litter where it comes from as well?
It does. It can come from anywhere, really. Well, it all starts from the land, so it's all caused by human activity. And you think about the short time that plastic has existed on our planet and how much damage that has done in such a short time. We're too reliant on plastic now, and it's just, it all breaks up into small pieces on the beach, and we have what we call microplastics, which ends up inside, our ocean life and so on.
So you find that, and that's interesting. So you do a lot of things on litter picking and clearing beach up. That's not the only activism that you're involved in, is it? You also became very concerned about the homeless, didn't you? And got involved in that. Some people might find that strange when you live in such a beautiful area that suddenly you're interested in homeless people as well. What brought that about?
That was when I was in Bristol, and a few years ago now, and I was talking to someone up there selling the big, I bought the big issue off him, and I was chatting to him, and I said, if you don't mind me asking, how did you become homeless? And he said that he lost his job, and then he lost his job, becoming a bit, finances were a bit difficult. So unfortunately, he separated from his wife. So he was there on his own, and then, but he couldn't afford the bills. Then he lost his house. So it was just a downhill spiral from there. So he said he's got his dog, and then some people think, if you're homeless, you don't need a dog. But he said the dog was the only thing that kept him, going really. He had something to live for, to look after his dog. But he said to me, things are on the up now, though. He said, because someone's given me a van to sleep in. And I thought, so that's one of the things that I thought. Well, I took part in a sleep out in Bristol on quite a wet November night. It was in a car park there. So I did that. And funny enough, on the next day, because I looked the part, I suppose, looked a bit scruffy. I've been out all night and carrying my sleeping bag. And I went into Bristol. There was a market on, and everyone went a bit quiet when they were chatting, and they saw me, and I could tell they thought I was, I wasn't, and I wasn't, couldn't be trusted or something. I don't know. They had that sort of attitude, which was a shame, really. But I did say to them that it's all right. I said I've been, what I'd done. But I did that and raised quite a bit of money for that and awareness. So I've done a few now, including one in London I did for the big issue down on the South Bank.
What made you go to London and do a sleep in?
Because I came it was partly to do with a story I did on my website about homelessness, and Big Issue sent me an email about it, and they said we're looking for people to take part in the sleep out. So I thought I'd like to do that. So I have great respect.
Well, that's a sort of busy life, and you do a lot of really good things. But you're also, aren't you? You're a rambler. You love rambling, and you on your blog you've got you've got item after item after item where you ramble to. I mean, do you do it for personal enjoyment, or is it a way of encouraging other people to connect with the countryside as well?
The rambling side of it, I like to do those on my own, really, because it's quite interesting what you'll see on the way, because sometimes I'll go as part of a group. I've done like some 100k walks. I did a 24-hour walk from Putney Bridge to Henley. I did that one. I've done one to Race to the Stones, which was one in Buckinghamshire somewhere down to Wiltshire. I did that one, but then I do other ones around the countryside on my own, and you meet people on the way. And I always have my litter picking stuff with me, and then people stop and chat, and then we talk about where they've come from. So you get a lot of visitors there, and so it's quite a nice social.
So you become a sort of missionary. You become a sort of missionary on your ramble and involve people, which is good. But you don't just stop there, do you? You've also got yourself now a zero waste shop in Minehead. What brought you to do that? I mean, tell us how that started.
Right. Well, last year I was off work. I wasn't very well for a while, and I was doing my beach cleans every day. So I had something to get up for every morning. I was down on the beach at first light, and see the sun come up, and just doing a beach, walking along to Minehead, which was about a 7-mile walk each way that was. So I just take my time doing that, and I get to by the time I got to Minehead end, I probably had about 6 or 7 bags of rubbish, and the local council were quite good, and they would collect it for me after I sorted it out. And lovely thing was that people, couple of times children came up to me. They, first thing, probably about 10 o'clock in the morning, they came up and said, "Thank you for making our beach clean." And I thought that's really nice that they said that, because then they were, if I was going along, they'd sort of rush across and come up, "Look, I found this," and they put that in the bag as well. You thought, well, that's good. Anyway, as time went on through the summer with my beach cleans, there was so much general household rubbish washing up on the beach. I thought, I need to do something here. So, I was just thinking about how we can reduce plastic, and I thought to myself, we haven't got a local shop that's doing plastic free totally. So I thought that's what I need to look at doing. So the end of the summer, I started doing some research on what was available, and found a shop that was becoming empty at the end of the year. So signed the lease on that, drew up my business plan, and then sort of worked out what I was going to be stocking, how I was going to fit the shop out. I want it to just be as sustainable and eco-friendly as possible. So I've got my shop, drew up how I was going to do it. So think about the flooring I'm going to use. So the underlay I sourced some rubber underlay made of recycled vehicle tires. I got the carpet on top of that. But first of all, I looked at carpet you can get that's made out of recycled fishing nets. But unfortunately, that had a sort of 3 to 4 month delay on that. So I spoke to the carpet supplier, and they said seagrass would be the best thing. And I was just about to order it, and then I found something online that said that seagrass is being threatened, because there's so much harvesting of it now, and there's so much marine life lives in it. So then I found sisal was the best option. So that's what I went for. So I've got that flooring down. the paint on the walls is by a company called Little Green, and they're one of the eco-friendly paints you can get. So I've used that on the walls and paintwork. All my fittings in the shop are made from old fruit crates. They're all stacked up and fixed together. They all look quite good. And then the shelving was upcycled wood and scaffold boards. Someone had a load of scaffold boards they didn't want, so I was able to upcycle those.
So when people come, so when people come in, do they understand the sort of eco nature of what you're doing, the fact that you fitted up your shop in a net zero way, or do they just come in to buy products? Do they understand the message you're getting over?
Yeah, they definitely say you can really see your story here, what you're doing, because it's not just about selling stuff, it's that sending the message about what's going on. Like I've got pieces of beach waste and that around the shop, and I've got photos of things I've collected. And all around the shop I've got blackboards on the walls with environmental quotes on from different, and how people can make a difference. And even my business cards are made out of printed on seeded paper. So if at the end of life of the business card, you can plant that and wildflowers will grow from that. So I'm just trying to, everything to do with my shop, I have made it environmentally as friendly as possible. And I'm involved with a group called Plastic Free, mined in West Somerset. So I'm now the sort of local hub for all that, really, because people come here to find out about what's going on.
Well, that's quite interesting. I'm going to ask you about that, the idea of it being a local hub. I mean, you find people come in not just to buy, but they come in to chat and to meet each other. So in a way, you're developing a community around what you do. Yes,
definitely. The people are so pleased that there's somewhere they can go and find out more, or if they can come in and get all their shopping and that. But people, and they recommend people, and they come in and they want to talk about getting more businesses on board. And I have a list up in the shop, a blackboard of local businesses who are joining the plastic free, making a difference, I suppose. It's like if you can make that change, you can encourage more customers as well to your business. For instance, there's a hotel who's joined the plastic free status, and they said that they found since then they are getting more customers because of that, to have that award.
So being green is not just good for the environment, it's good for business as well.
Business, yes, yeah. Yeah, and there was just so much available on the market. Now, it's been quite an eye-opener, really, what is available. And I try and get some unusual things as well. Like I've got bags made out of coffee bean sacks and bicycle inner tubes. I've got jewellery made out of skateboards and inner tubes, and there's a belt made out of a motorbike tire, and it's just so much that can be done. I've got sunglasses made out of recycled fishing nets, and I've got some flower pots as well made out of the same. There's just so much on the market now if you search.
Well, you do all this. I mean, litter picking, recycling, the shop, rambling, getting people involved, all the things you do. What do you think it is that drives you? What's the motivation? What's made you be like that? Because you could have, maybe retired, sat down on a rocking chair and just looked out at the sea, but you're so active. What is the motivation, do you think?
I think the rambling side of things, 11 years ago, I had pneumonia really badly. And, I'm lucky to be here, really. But when I was recovering, as soon as I remember that first time I came down the stairs and I was out of breath, and then a couple of days later, I'd go just dump the garden a bit. And I thought, this is doing me good, a bit more walking each day. So about a couple of weeks later, I walked over to the school where I worked just to go and see them, and then came back. So, and I had to go back and see the doctor, and he said, whatever you're doing, he says, it's doing you good. He says, you're recovering really well. I said, well, that's the walking I'm doing. So since then, that's how I got into long distance walking, which my father used to do, and I never really got into it. But this sort of gave me a new lease of life. And on those walks, yeah, I think enjoying the countryside and seeing the litter and that. So I thought you need to sort of do more and get more people involved in this, because I'd be doing my litter, picking up litter, and people would say thank you for doing that, and then people would start doing their bit. And so, oh, I've got a carry bag on me, if I see anything I'll pick it up. And I thought, this is really working. So I thought I can get more people doing this and make a difference to our environment.
So you are making a difference to that beautiful area there. And it's my county as well, so I know how beautiful it is. But you lived in London. Did you get the feeling there that, sustainability is important in the city as well, and something's got to be done there?
Yes, definitely. When I walk around up there, I even have my litter picking stuff when I go up there. I like it. But in Enfield, I see, I go in the mornings, and I can see the people from the council going litter picking every morning, and I say good morning to them and have a little chat. So that it makes you feel better, I think, if you're being thanked for doing something. But I think we can all make a difference really into where we live. If everyone did that, it's like my shop here. Each morning I'll go up and down the road just to make sure there's no litter and it all looks tidy. And I think if outside our houses, if we look after that, and businesses, if they sort of took made the front of their premises look tidier, I think people would notice it. Yeah. There's I don't know if anyone's been to Belsize Park recently, but they have they've really taken it on board about making a difference to their environment, and all the businesses there have litter pickers, and they keep it all tidy, and they've sort of put planters out, and people now go there and sit outside and have a drink and stuff, and it's a really nice surrounding. So I've been up there to have a look around it, because I did live there for a little while I was in London, and I can see such a difference. And I think that more we can do with more of that across
everywhere.
Not just that, not just London, but everywhere, all our communities.
Yeah, absolutely, everywhere. And that's an important message. I mean, we've sort of come to the end of the 30 minutes now. So if anybody wanted to know more about your zero waste shop, or to see your blog, find out more about what you've been doing and what they could possibly do, where do you think they could go to find out?
Well, they can. I've got my website for the shop at www.ourpreciousearth.co.uk. I'm on Twitter if they go on Twitter and find me at Beachcomber50, Beachcomber50, on there you'll find a link to my blog, my litter blog that I do. I've also got a travel blog as well. I do my walking, and that's at beachcomber50.wordpress.com, I think it is. But again, if you tapped in my name and put Exmoor, Keith Hunt Exmoor walking, you'd find me on there. Okay.
Okay, yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you, Keith, for doing this, because that's really interesting, and you've shown what can be done, but you've also shown what one person can do, that one person can make a difference to the locality in which they live, and you've certainly done that. And you've got a very active life, and you've done a lot of good for people around you and for the environment. And I think it's well worth listening to your story, because it could be other people's stories too if they followed your example. So thank you for doing this webinar today, and we'll finish this interview now.